This is a Phoenix Media program, an innovation of USQ.
USQ is a proud sponsor of this radio program.
You listen to Mornings live and local on Brisbane Youth Radio on 1197 AM and digital radio outline at phoenixradio.com.au. My name's Nick.
My name is Alex.
And my name's Al.
And my name's Stu.
Oh,
Hey! The whole gang is
the
here.
boys are back in
Boys are
town.
back.
And
What a
a
great
good,
track.
and a good special happy birthday to Stuart.
Stuart, happy
happy
birthday.
birthday.
Yay.
Oh, it's a great day on mornings.
Yeah, it's a good Monday morning.
yeah, you know.
How does it feel to have your birthday at the beginning of a working week?
Oh, well, I don't work, so...
Hey,
Oh, I
well, there,
guess
there you go. Every day's a holiday.
Every day's a holiday. Nice.
Every day is like Sunday.
Well, coming up on the show today, of course, we've got our news. We've got some sport with good old Terry Pascoe,
Terry.
the after the
Yeah.
80 host.
I want to hear his take on how he thinks if the Blues are going to whitewash Origin.
Whitewash. What do you
Is that the
mean?
way? Is that the term?
I don't think that's the
I don't,
term,
that's
mate.
not the term.
I thought it was.
Well,
We've got
yeah, they
two-
went
We're
with
getting
whitewash.
the
two.
thumbs up
Yeah.
from Gabby over
Oh.
in the corner.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
When I think whitewashing, I just think of like white people.
Oh, like when you make
playing-
Pocahontas white in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, white. Like they won.
Well,
the
that's what
whitewash.
you think. I think about a washing machine and having your whites in the load and separated from the dark.
We all of us have different interpretations. Some more politically correct than the
Three
other.
meetings.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting show today. Of course, we're going to have round 3 of the
grand quiz.
Yeah,
final.
we need
Ooh,
to settle
between
this
you
with
two.
1-1, so we need to
And
make
we
a-
also have some interesting topics to talk about.
We
later
do.
this
We've,
afternoon.
of course, in our day in history, it's war
Oh.
and space.
It's war in space.
Well, I'm adding my
shaking
Space.
things up, aren't
One
we?
day there'll be a space war, and I'll be able to combine them both.
Oh, well,
Right.
it's
Space
Trump's
war.
Space Force, you know, it might come sooner
Yeah,
than
yeah.
At some point this year, we'll be going on air, and it'll be like the launch of the Vostok 2. Like, so that was when Russia started the space race. So
Yeah.
you will have space and war at some point.
Oh, the cold. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Wow.
Alice says favorite unit in history.
Yeah. But right now we have Slow Hands by
Interpol?
what's his name? Niall Horan. Well, I think it's one of the what? What'd you say?
A slow hand by Interpol. I thought it was.
No.
No.
This is One Direction boy.
I hope it's Liam. He's my favorite.
No, it's Niall.
Niall.
Oh no!
And here it is. Listen mornings live and local on Brisbane Youth Radio on 1197 AM and digital radio outline at phoenixradio.com.au. Now time for the news.
Time for the news. This is the sort of the holiday edition of our show, so we're going
It's
to be a
nowhere
bit
near
more.
the holiday, but okay.
Yeah, it is. It's a school
Yeah, it's a
holiday.
Oh,
School
it's a
holidays
school
one, yeah.
holiday.
Yeah.
It's not like listeners are going to be like, oh, it's a holiday.
No, they're on the Monday morning 9 to 5 grind right now. So we're just going to sort of read out little bits of the news and talk about it like we do with our world news segment.
Yeah.
So the first sort of article we've got here is about, so detectives have laid 16 additional charges against, and I can't pronounce this name,
Zlatko Zagorski.
Yeah. Who is also accused of murdering Larissa Belby after her body was discovered in a barrel south of Brisbane on Wednesday, including torture. So
Oh, that's awful.
he was expected to face magistrates' court this morning, and so he has yet to cooperate with the investigation. So did you hear that on the news the other day?
Yeah, it was all over the Courier and the Sunday Times,
Yeah.
like for a good week. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So-
that's awful. It just, I mean, I don't want to add levity to the situation because it's horrible, but it just reminds me of a horrible episode in a show called Dexter. And spoiler alert
yeah.
for people who've seen it. There's this fellow that shoves these girls into barrels and just throws them in a lane. And it's just awful.
It's horrible.
A horrible way to die.
It's it's pretty.
Nothing positive to be said about
No, there's it's pretty grim, that one.
it.
The next one is about the Logies. Of course, that happened.
Tried to not watch it all.
Yeah,
I actually
neither did
completely forget that's a thing. Is that meant to be like the Australian version of the Oscars?
Yeah.
It's for
But it
television.
even- But it even sounds silly. Logies, like
Well, I suppose
It's,
it's sort of, I don't want to say tongue in cheek, but I don't think it's meant to be taken too seriously.
I guess not.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. But at the same time, neither of the Oscars, you find that a lot of them are sort of joking about. Yeah, but it's a
The
bit.
on-running joke for the last 3 years is the fact that actors are mingling with normal people, and it's getting really tiresome and very condescending.
Yeah.
So I've lost a lot of like attention
Interest.
span and interest for anything to do with like film getting accolades, because like the whole on-running joke is like, hey, look, we're famous people, we're mingling with normal people, and that
I don't know. I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories about like award shows and stuff. Like there's the Oscars, which I have seen a video on, and it's supposedly like, oh, whoever pays the most money will get the Oscar.
That's something I've heard
That's
for
not a
years.
conspiracy theory. That's completely true.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
exactly
well,
what I've
there
heard.
you go.
Yeah,
That's bloody...
it's the same. It's like an association of people who decide who wins.
Oh, is that like your for your consideration?
Yes.
Campaigns.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
So
yep,
that's
yep.
sort of what Oscars are for, because that's what I heard,
Pretty
and they
much.
sort
Yeah.
of just pretty much spend a stupid amount of money on people, and it's just like I think Denzel Washington joked about it in his acceptance speech. For
Yeah.
one of them years ago. I don't remember what.
So
what he accepted
here's
it
some
for,
money. Watch my movie.
basically.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. That's why. Yeah. So
Oh well.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite immensely. I think it was the Emmys, not the Oscars. Or it could have been the Oscars. I think when Ricky Gervais hosted it for a couple of times,
yeah.
and he always made lovely tongue-in-cheek references to all the ins and outs of Hollywood. Like, I like the fact that they had Ricky Gervais an outsider of it at the time, because he's very much like, he's probably the only British comedian that's so accepted wholeheartedly in the American audience. And I like the fact that he'd always bring in tongue-in-cheek and somewhat just like, you know that phrase like, oh, you know, in every joke there's a grain of truth. I think in every joke he had there was more than one grain of truth. Just the fact that he would always just make fun of how Hollywood has these tropes, and how even he made jabs about how Hollywood covers things up. Like, yeah, it was just, it's always, that was the only time, I think that was the last time I actually paid attention to any sort of film award show, was
Yeah.
when Ricky Gervais hosted it, because he's funny. So people were divided over Bert Newton's appearance. So if you don't know, he's been a long-standing
Yes.
Australian TV presenter, and at the Logies, he was at the age of 79, took stage at the Star Casino at the Gold Coast to the rapturous applause before launching into a lengthy and somewhat thought at times very funny monologue. But a few of his comments had eyebrows raised at the audience, eyebrows raised with the audience at home and there at the event.
So I'm just trying to find what he said. Here we go.
He said something about.
He said he enjoyed giving young people a chance on television. He was a great mentor. So this is what Bert Newman said about. I can't find who it's about, but he said he enjoyed giving young people a chance on television. He was a great mentor. He mentored a lot of young people. You knew if he went to his dressing room, it was locked. He would be inside doing some mentoring.
Oh, okay. I just got that.
Yeah,
Ew.
yeah.
Oh.
And so that's why it's an odd and jarring joke. It sounds like an
Like-
old man's joke.
But in this the day and
In this
age
day and
with
age,
all
it's not
the
good.
Harvey
Yeah.
Weinsteins and all that, it's
Yeah,
like,
no. It's,
no, that's not something you should say.
But you have to appraise that to the light of the context that he's coming from. He's 79.
Yeah, I know. That's the
Not
thing that I
sure,
find very,
yeah.
very
Yeah.
like a bit hard. Is that yes, day and age has changed, but he grew up in a day when that was okay.
yeah.
I've got customers who come up to me at work and say dirty old man jokes, and it'd be completely inappropriate to say to anybody, but you just have to sort of take it on the chin and be like,
Absolutely.
ha, ha, ha.
It's not meant seriously. It's meant in jest. It's,
Yeah.
It's like a phrase I use. It's good old fashioned Aussie racism, where it's sort of like got a bit of brevity to it, but you know, no one actually means any of it, but they'll say it anyway for the sake of the joke because it's funny, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
It's like
I guess you could say it's a characteristic that Australians just sort of hold.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
calling your friends the C word.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
really, we are very laid back culture.
Yeah.
Well. Anyways, next up we got there are 3 dead after a high-speed crash on the Ipswich Road at Maruka. So there's been a horrible triple fatality at Maruka. Sorry, pardon me, I'm just trying to find when this happened.
So, 2 innocent lives were claimed when an 18-year-old male driver who also died crashed his car into them at high speed while driving down the wrong side of the road. So he was on the wrong side of the road on Ipswich Road.
So it's overtaking, I imagine. Wait, which road?
Ipswich
So
Road.
this is like the
Ipswich
one in
Road.
1 mile, so it has
Okay.
all of those car dealerships and everything. That's
Yeah,
where
the
Maruka is, yeah.
the
Yeah,
Magic
yeah.
Mile, as it's
Magic Mile.
That's
yeah.
what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So,
yeah.
but that's that. Yeah, okay. No, I see how they've done that. Yeah, I was about to say, isn't that dual carriageway? How did he get over the median strip? But it's not.
Yeah, no, it's we were on that road the other day, me and my girlfriend. It's just a flat road. You could
Yeah.
easily do
It's
it if you were
a
just being reckless.
I drive a Ford Fiesta. It's a very small car, and I find those lanes are very tight.
Yeah, they are. They're a bit
Very
difficult
small.
to drive on. I've seen that. I've heard that resoundingly. You know, I just think, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe they should just add in extra precautions. I don't know how easy that is from an infrastructural standpoint, but
Yeah.
I would. It wouldn't be that hard. I mean, you could either put posts, or you could put the more the fluorescent bumpers in the middle of the road, as to know, like, because sometimes there's like a repeated amount when you start to go on the other road. Like I have it in Boona Road, so you've got to it goes dun 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 dun. That's how you know you're getting closer to.
You've also got you can actually put it on the asphalt itself.
Yeah.
I think the problem with that road is it's already been widened to include 2 lanes on either side.
Yeah.
Because it was such a tight strip, so I don't think they have much room to make any more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we'll just jump into
The weather.
weather. I got to put my little sound effect there. So it's currently 18 degrees at the moment. We're expecting a max today of 24. Possible showers with a 50% chance of rain, and it's gonna be cloudy and some light winds.
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah,
It's
just,
been kind of dreary all week, but I like that.
but it hasn't been cold though, in my opinion.
Really?
Like I'm wearing shorts today because I'm not gonna be cold today.
Yeah, it's
Night
been very-
is cold, but
I've
yes,
got
no.
a cold, so everything's a little bit more colder for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. No, I agree with you, Nick. I think it's generally been obviously cold at night, but during the day, I think, what was it, yesterday or the day before was one of the hottest days of winter we've had.
I was wearing a jumper on Saturday, and I felt a bit hot. I had to take it off. Usually I don't. Like right now, I'm sitting in here, and we've got the heater on in here,
Yeah.
and I'm still wearing my jumper. So
anyway, we've got some Coldplay right now with clocks. It's
beautiful.
Oh,
Love
that's a
Coldplay.
non-running joke we've had for so long.
Alistair and I have this joke with clocks. It's like, oh, what's your favorite Coldplay song? Oh, it's Clocks, because I love the chorus.
The
'cause it
melody,
goes,
it's fantastic.
Clocks.
Clocks, clocks, clocks. That's the song. That's how the song
It's
goes.
a song. That's how it goes.
Clocks,
Yeah.
clocks, clocks.
Anyway, here's Clocks by Coldplay.
This day in history.
This morning's live and local on Brisbane Youth Radio on 1197 AM and digital radio outline at phoenixradio.com.au. Time for some space and war history.
like every other week.
Yeah, we can't call it this day in history anymore. It's just space,
Space and war history. No, I've got some other things in there. All right, so I'll kick it off. In 16. Oh, here we go. This is the first time we've gone back to the 1600s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in
long ago.
1698.
Did they even have phones back then?
Oh,
No, but they're about to get something else. Just hold on, all right? Ready? In 1698, Thomas Savery patents the first steam engine.
That's where Thomas the
there you
Tank
go.
Engine comes from.
Is
well done,
Yes,
buddy.
Alistair.
Is it?
I don't know. I thought you were telling me history.
Thomas the Tank Engine is a steam engine. Yes.
Yes.
So congratulations.
And the guy who painted the steam engine was named Thomas.
Oh,
There
wow.
you go.
Maybe it
I wonder
was.
if that's linked.
That's
It's-
literally what I
it's
just
all
said.
come full
That's
circle.
what- yeah.
I thought
That's
you were
Stuart's favourite
actually
thing.
telling us a fact.
No, I genuinely thought that's where it came from.
All right.
Stuart's favourite thing is when things come full circle.
Yeah, I love when everything's just linked and it all fits perfectly. It's got a nice through line.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Love it.
Great.
Love it.
Great time.
Beautiful. And the next one, no, I'll read it. Okay, fine. 1897. British-Italian engineer. Oh, God. Can you pronounce this? Man of pronouncing words.
I'm gonna say yeah, I was gonna say Guillermo, but he's not Guillermo del Toro. His last name's Marconi. So there you
Yeah,
go.
so Gulli
Yeah, I think it's.
Lamo.
I'm gonna say Guillermo.
My dad's gonna kill me for this.
Yeah.
Guillermo.
Anyway, he obtains a patent for radio in London.
That's
Oh, wow.
cool.
So
There you
that's what we're on right now. Well,
Oh,
we're not in
lit.
London, but we're
London.
here in Australia
Yes.
On radio.
on radio.
So in 1937, Amelia Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan are last heard from over the Pacific Ocean while attempting to make the first equatorial round-the-world flight.
There we go.
There you go. So that's something pretty interesting.
And in 1921, World War I, US President Warren G. Harding signs the Knox-Porter Resolution, formally ending the war between the United States and Germany.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
In 1962, the first Walmart store opens for business in Rogers, Arkansas. Now, I've got to make a quick complaint. I've always hated the word Arkansas, and I think everyone's with me on this.
Arkansas.
It's Arkansas.
Wait, what? What's
Spell
going
it.
on?
Okay, so Arkansas, right?
It's spelled-
It's spelled
Arkansas.
ARKANSAS.
SAS.
Yes. Right. And Kansas is spelled similarly, just without the
AR.
AR.
Without AR, yeah.
But it's pronounced differently. That makes no sense.
I always pronounce it Arkansas. So that's wrong. It's Arkansas.
It's Arkansas.
Arkansas. That's how it's meant to be
I
pronounced.
thought it was, when I first saw it on a map, I thought it was Arkansas, and I said
Yeah.
it to an American, and they thought I was the stupidest person alive.
I think
'Cause
they just
thought,
think that
well,
anyway
how-
because we're Australian. But
Yeah, well,
It's like at least we don't say Brisbane and Melbourne.
yeah.
yeah. Except when you go there, you realise that some of them do.
Brisneyland. Oh,
Oh,
Brisneyland.
Bris Vegas.
What was that? Yeah, Bris Vegas.
Oh
There
yeah,
you go.
baby.
Oh,
Alrighty.
dear.
Can I go to my music ones now?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yay. So on this day, in 1956, Elvis Presley debuted on NBC TV and performed Hound Dog, which
Oh.
I don't think anyone could know.
Classic.
Yeah, everyone could know that song.
Yeah,
It's easy.
everyone loves Elvis.
There you go.
Ain't
Nothing but a hound dog.
It was on do you remember
Man on the Moon?
no, the Disney VHS pre-rolls of other Disney movies.
No.
The animated pre-rolls.
Like that felt like the guy playing chess with himself.
No. So
that's a
this
good
is
one.
so when
is a
you
good
bought a Disney VHS like Monsters Inc., it had a pre-roll of other things like Toy Story and stuff
Oh,
like that.
yes,
And they
okay,
had that
now I
song playing over the top of it while advertising their other VHSs.
Oh, really?
Oh, back in the day.
Does that mean that Pixar owned the rights to that song?
No, but
No.
they probably bought the rights to use
yeah,
it.
you can use it individually.
Okay, there you go.
But that's what I remember. That's where I remember that song from. Is just from my childhood. The VHS tapes
The
always
only
had.
VHS tape I remember having when I was a kid was Shrek. We watched it all
And
the
the
time.
VHS was green.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Monsters Inc. one was blue. I
And
love
The,
that.
the Lion King one, it was red, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Nice.
And the Lion King 2, which in my personal opinion was better, but no one will agree with me
The Lion
ever.
King 1.5 was better.
No one thinks that.
I wanted some more Nathan Lane.
Some space history. Oh, do you have more music?
I got one more.
Yeah,
and that
no,
was
go ahead.
this is for Stuart because he is. What's your favorite band in the world?
The Beatles.
So in 1963, the Beatles debuted their single "She Loves You" and at EMI Studios,
Oh, brilliant song.
and
Beautiful.
it completed the 2 songs that released that month.
Oh wow.
Ah,
I think it's very nice, not very common knowledge that the Beatles recorded a few songs in German because they had a great following in Germany. And it was, I think it's pronounced "Sie liebt dich," which is "She loves you" in German.
and that they
And
so they learnt German to sing that.
Yeah, and they did
Wow.
about 5 or 6 songs. And
pretty cool.
if you look it
Yeah.
up on Spotify, they have their own sort of mini album sort of compilation of all their German songs, which I think is really interesting.
That is really interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's pretty
So
cool.
that's what's fascinating about being a band in, I think, in Europe is the fact that
You have
like if you don't
all
work
these
in this,
different languages.
if you don't work in Australia, you got nothing to go off. If you don't work in like say Canada, you've got America at least. You maybe you've got Latin America. But if you're in Europe, it doesn't matter if you're terrible. You basically some morons in Amsterdam's gonna love it, or some dudes, or like some old dudes in Sweden are gonna like. No matter where you are in Europe,
You have a
there's
bigger
some
audience.
market there for you.
Yeah, and the market is different because there's so many different countries.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
cultures.
Like, so for instance, because I love this band, so I'm sorry I'm going to bring it up, but The Cure, when they released their second album in 1980, 17 Seconds, their hugest following that came out of that was nowhere near Britain. It was from the Netherlands. So they did their debut album tour because some bands they don't tour off the back of the first album because maybe the record label doesn't give enough money to tour or anything, but they were able to earn enough so they could tour off the back of their second album, and they did the whole tour basically in the Netherlands, and they started there and they ended there because that was where the big sales came from. So that from the start, The Cure had a huge fan base in the Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
Even though they're from, by the way, I should have mentioned they're from Crawley, which is like South England. So
Al, I just wanted to quickly tell you, before we get into our space fact, a friend of ours that I will not name on air said that The Cure is overrated. I want you to guess which one. Not right now, but just in our own time, because you'll love the answer. Anyways, on to space news.
all right. In 2013,
the people can't see my face. So I was shook.
Yeah,
I was shook.
In 2018, the International Astronomical Union names Pluto's 4th and 5th moons Kerberos and Styx.
I'm familiar
Cerberus.
with Styx, but what is Kerberos? Where's that from? Surely that's got to be some
From Mass Effect.
mythological.
Yeah, I was about to say it's from Mass Effect. I'm like, I've heard that before.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear. Well done, Alistair.
Styx was also a game about a goblin, I believe.
Oh, I cannot
was-
It's a
confirm
band
or
in the
deny
70s.
No, it was quite recent. The
suppose.
graphics are amazing, but the gameplay, I don't really know.
I
about
actually
that.
didn't know that Pluto had 5 moons.
Yeah, neither would I.
Okay, so they're like
Apparently, how many moons does Saturn have? What's the planet that has like the most amount of moons?
It's like Jupiter. and it's
Jupiter,
got,
I
like,
think.
yeah, it's insane.
The number that pops into head
like-
is 16.
Yeah,
but I don't
it's
think
around
that's
that.
right.
No, I think it's
Oh,
around
God.
20 or 16. No, the moons are like little rocks.
Oh, so
They're not round. They're kind of oblong shaped, but they're really big. What would be compared to meteorites?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Well, yeah.
but because they orbit it, they're a moon.
Yes, no, I was actually, me and Alex were discussing this last week in a little intermission. There was a thing I saw on a show called QI, which used to be hosted by Stephen Fry, is now hosted by Sandy Toksvig. There was a question, how many moons does the Earth have? And someone said 1, and that was the wrong answer.
No, yeah, because it's got more.
Yeah, it's changed answer to...
what?
It used to have the Earth used to have hundreds of moons, which count as like little space debris larger than a certain size. So I think the answer was 300 at a point. At one point, it was just 2, but the most recent answer was 0 because the main moon,
Lunar.
the main moon, up in the sky that we see, is in some geostationary orbit within Earth, and they're sort of symbiotic in a sense that they sort of rely on each other and they spin around each other.
Yeah.
So the moon has come close to classifying as its own planet,
Yep.
which is
Okay, so
I'm
imagine.
being shook today.
Okay, so imagine like a mini solar system, but just containing Earth and the Moon, and that solar system rotates around.
It's pretty much what
Yes.
people thought in the 1400s, and Galileo was like, "No, we revolve around the sun." People are like, "Pfft, "Get out!"
Well,
everything
we
revolves
still
around
do,
us.
but it's like the Moon and Earth don't. The Moon doesn't necessarily rotate around the Earth as much as they both rotate, like dancing, like holding hands, spinning around like a. Yeah.
Sort of imagine a tabletop with 2 ends, and they just sort of spin together around a larger thing. So it's sort of like its own planet. It's insane.
Man.
I would very much encourage you to read more into
Space
it
is so interesting.
because I'm probably not doing it justice anyway. But it's very interesting. I love it.
I'm
Watch
loving
QI, by the
loving
way.
the
It's really
space
great.
talk because we got an interview coming up with space.
Yes, we do.
Oh, do we?
Yeah,
Oh,
a man called
brilliant.
Jack Clark from USQ, a PhD candidate.
It's literally written here on the minutes as we talk space for 15 minutes.
It was pre-recorded, so
Of course, we'll jump into that soon, but right now we have Ocean by Martin Garrix. And that was Never Be Like You by Flume. You listen to Mornings Live and Local on Brisbane Youth Radio on 11:97 a.m. and Digital Radio and livephoenixradio.com.au. So we've got some breaking sports news, and I have on the line Terry Pascoe, After the 80 host. Terry, how are you this morning?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. So what's this breaking news?
So the Queensland Marine team has finally been announced. It was supposed to be announced at 7 o'clock last night, but due to the late injury to Greg Inglis in the South game, which was played at 4 o'clock this afternoon, they had to delay the naming because they had to find how they're going to restructure the team because Greg Inglis is such a huge player. He's our captain, so they had to take that time off. So the official team's now been released, and this time it's not an alphabetical order like Kevin Walters has been doing for the other 2 games. So we've actually got an order. So we have Billy Slater as fullback, and he is the captain, so that's good. This is his last Origin game, so it's really nice touch that he becomes captain. Yes, only for 1 game, but it's his final game. Gagai moves into the centres in Greg Inglis's place, and Corey Oates comes into the game on the wing. Cameron Munster retains his spot in the half, and Daly Cherry Evans is back in the Queensland side. He hasn't played in the Queensland side since 2015. There was rumours that there was a bit of an exile, that he wasn't liked within the senior ranks of the Queensland team, but I guess they were pushed into a corner to say they needed somebody else there. Ben Hunt has moved from that 7 position onto the bench. Now, this, as much as people will look at this as a demotion because he didn't perform that greatly in Game 2, he is a better utility player. He played his first probably 50 to 100 NRL games off the bench and filling in for Andrew McCulloch when he was having a rest. So he can play that utility role. So I think it is a sort of smart decision to do. And Tim Glasby comes in on the bench for Dylan Napa, who also got injured over the weekend with his ankle. So there's a few changes. It's a bit of a new look side. So as I said, you got Slater, Holmes, Gagai, Chambers, Oates, Munster, Cherry Evans. Joy Arrow comes into the starting prop side. McCulloch retains his spot, even though he's got a broken finger. Josh Papali, Gavin Cooper, Felice Kafusi, Maguire, as I mentioned, Hunt, Wallace, Hess, and Glasby. And just for giggles, and giggles, as I will say, Dylan Napa is 18th man, but there's no way he'll be playing with his ankle.
Oh, poor Queensland team. It's like everyone's like be walking out in crutches next game. Like, we're going to try and play football. Poor guys.
I was going to say, I was going to give Kevin a call, say, mate, I'm still good, I can play. And just so we could touch on the New South Wales side has been named. Pretty much it's the same side except for Tarek Sims comes in onto the bench, and Ryan James again is 18 man. I don't know what else he could do to get into the side, but unfortunately this year is not his year.
Oh, poor thing. Let's just jump into
I was going to say it's our benefit though, really.
Yeah. Oh, true. Actually, yeah, because I'm such a nice person, I guess, and I'm like, oh, poor guy, but I'm like, wait, he's New South Wales, so like it's benefiting us. So we'll jump into QRL now. You were at the Dolphins and Manly Seagulls game. So how did that one play out?
Yeah, this one's the Battle of the Bayside Cup, Battle of the Bayside, I guess you could say. Now, for them to retain the Herald Cup, Wynnum had to win by 16 or more. Obviously, it wasn't the case because Redcliffe defeated them 50-18. Now, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but this scoreline really helps Redcliffe on the ladder because they are tied in second place between them, the Blackhawks, and Pride. They're all on 22 points, but they are now ahead of the Blackhawks on points difference by 4 points.
Oh, wow.
So a try. So that's why they're now in the second place. So that 50-18 win, I think it was, was really crucial for them. On the weekend, also there's been some movements when you talk about the ladder with East defeating Ipswich. Another close game at Suncorp Stadium between North Devils and South Laker Magpies, 24-22. Northern Pride beating Townsville. This is, battle of the top end. And, that was a good win as well. Capras finally get a win, and it's around a time where Kim Williams is now leaving, so you wonder if that might have been influenced. But I guess the negative out of it is Dave Taylor is now injured, and he's one of their marquee players. Battle of the Gold Coast, Burleigh defeated Tweed, and Sunny Coast almost got away with a win against the Falcons against PNG. The score doesn't reflect it, but Sunny Coast was pretty strong throughout that game, but PNG ended up winning 24-12.
And as I see on the ladder, the Falcons have been knocked out of the top 8, and the Tigers have gone up, so they've kind of swapped around. Yeah.
There's something that was a bit miffed. I'll pull you up there, Nick. It's something that confused me as well. In the Intel Super Cup, it's only a top 6. So even though the app has it as 8 and they've got a line there and all this, it's actually a top 6. Which actually makes it more congested. Like, because you think about it, Devils have just moved up to 6th position, but they're tied with Tweed on 18. But obviously Tweed's got a horrendous points difference. Norths are on 0 actually, against with their for and against. But the Seagulls are on -79. So that's why it's a bit difficult. But the interesting one is the East Tigers, with their victory over Ipswich, moves them up to 8. And then obviously that means there's a good chance that they could still make the top 6. But like you said, Falcons in at 9. This is really crucial now. Like East, they've got to win every single game to be even thought about playing in the finals.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us again this morning on Mornings, of course. You can catch Terry on After the 80 on the Phoenix Media Hub Facebook page at facebook.com/Phoenix Media Hub. Thank you again, Terry.
No, is it all?
Absolutely. Oh, he's a legend. Terry's a legend. Right now, we have Anything Could Happen by Ellie Goulding.
This is a Phoenix Media program, an innovation of USQ.
And yes, it's time for our pop quiz. You listen to Mornings Live and Local on Brisbane Youth Radio on 11:97 AM and digital radio and livephoenixradio.com.au. Yes, it's time for round 3. Stuart v. Alistair.
The grand final.
The grand final.
I'm loving this jingle.
It's great. It reminds me of like an 80s like what do you call it?
It's like
The
Happy
word's
Days,
gone.
but it's like Happy Days without the terrible tropes
A
of the
contestant
80s.
show. Yeah, a game show. Oh my god, there it is there. Game show.
Because this is a game show.
I know it's a game show. Look, the
Jason
joke's
said
gone. The
game
joke's
show.
over. I forgot about it, alright?
As soon as you
reminds
said
me of
game
the-
show,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, this reminds me of the opening to Laverne and Shirley, but I guarantee no one here's seen it.
never
No,
seen
never
it.
seen
Oh,
it.
It's a
I've
brilliant
I've
show.
never
I
heard
love
of her.
Laverne and Shirly.
Never heard of it. So I
They
don't care.
suck.
Are you sure about this? I am sure.
I am. Well, I love Frasier.
And don't. What? It's Naked Gun. No, it's not. It's Airplane. Oh, good
Oh
one.
no! Don't call me. What is it? Don't call me Shirley.
So, surely you
I am
can't be serious.
Don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
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 Leslie Nielsen will be missed. Rest in peace.
He's not dead.
He is. He passed away a few years ago.
No, he
Okey-doke.
didn't.
Leslie
Okay,
Nielsen passed away.
Let's just jump into this quiz. Okay, you two
I'm
just
gonna be
shut
very
up.
upset
Okay,
if
quiz,
this is
quiz,
true.
quiz.
Okay, so question 1 says A, B, C.
Buzz.
Oh no, yeah, we need buzzers.
Oh.
Ding.
Oh.
All right, yeah, I'm Ding. Buzz.
Ding and Buzz.
Ding and sounds like an
Buzz.
ABC
Buzz.
children's movie.
Ding and Buzz.
Ding and Buzz.
We're not
Bill
charismatic
and
enough.
Ben,
Oh,
the,
the
flower
flower
pot men.
All right, we're not getting anywhere with this. Come on.
Okay.
Right, Nick, what's the topic of the quiz?
What's the topic, Gabby? Producer?
General
General
knowledge.
There you
Oh,
go.
we're gonna lose.
Oh, well, depends on your knowledge, mate.
Oh, I don't know. I
right.
haven't been to high school for 4
So
years.
question,
Yeah, question one. Question one.
so what year did Albert Einstein die? Is it A, 1954, 2, B, sorry,
That was nice.
1949, C, 1960, or 4, because it's numbers, they're not
Buzz,
letters.
Buzz,
C,
Buzz.
1955.
Buzz. It's
Okay.
B, 1949.
No. Oh, wait, I got the...
Ding. Damn, it's C, isn't it? It's 19. Oh!
That's it. We both lose.
All right, no,
It's,
yeah, no one
it's
gets it.
D 1955.
Maybe we should say
There you
1,
go.
2, 3, 4, otherwise I'll get
Yeah, we'll just do
confused.
1, 2, 3, 4. I reckon we should also hold the answer until they both answer.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
sounds good.
So
Okay.
did we both fail that one?
Yeah, you both did.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's nil all.
Okay, question 2, Alex.
Yep. Which is the largest planet in our solar system? Is it A, Jupiter, B,
Ding.
Neptune?
Well, it's Jupiter.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Come on.
I thought it was Neptune.
I love how Earth and Mars are there too.
Oh,
So we go from some of the biggest planets to the smallest.
no, it's Mercury.
I had mercury poisoning once. It wasn't good.
Question 3.
Yes.
Oh, how do you say that?
Ooh.
What color is cerulean? So spelled Cerulean. Is it 1, red, 2, blue, 3, yellow, 4, green?
Ding. Oh.
Oh,
Ooh.
Ding. No,
Alright,
you
wait,
said-
no.
yeah,
Okay,
mine-
we won't
mine's
reveal the
ding.
answer. Just both of you say,
3, 2, 1. Blue.
Yellow.
"Oh,
It's blue. I'm pretty sure
Oh.
it's
I
blue.
think it's yellow.
it's blue."
Yes.
oh wow.
How is
Okay,
this
so
general
can-
knowledge? I
Yeah,
don't
know.
need visual
How's the
art.
general knowledge when I don't even know what the cerulean is?
Cerulean.
What is
Cerulean.
It just reminds me
It's
of
like
Star Wars.
I think it's a sky blue.
Oh, so it's a color.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
It's just a type of color, like magenta.
Yeah. Okay.
It's,
cyan.
it's pronounced cerulean.
Nicely done, Stu.
Okay.
Yeah, I know things.
How did you know
Okay,
that,
question
by the
4,
way?
Alex.
I don't know.
Yep. What are a group of dolphins called?
Oh,
Oh, bloody.
So
hell.
is it A, a school, B, a herd, C,
Buzz.
a pod, or a D, a pool?
Buzz.
Did you,
Yeah.
Buzz. Yeah, A.
Do you have an answer?
I'm gonna say D pool.
You're
Pool.
both incorrect. It's
Oh,
Thanks for
gotta
that,
get
yeah.
2 in there. It's a pod. 3. A
Damn.
pod of dolphins.
damn.
Oh.
Should have guessed that one.
That's
Oh,
a-
I'm still on 2-0. I'm not.
Yeah, I
Que-
mean,
question
yeah.
5.
It's like the World Cup.
bothered. Oh,
Who discovered penicillin? 1, Alexander Fleming. 2, Thomas Edison.
Buzz.
Yes.
Is it A?
yeah, it is A.
It is
A.
A.
Alexander.
I was gonna let them read out the options, but I knew. It
Oh,
was
you didn't
A.
do that for like the second question. You were just like Jupiter. So if you're allowed,
changing the rules.
Oh no! Oi, shut up.
Fight.
All
Next
right.
question, Alex.
I own this show.
You can go away, please. That's bonkers. Absolute bonkers.
Oh my god. All right, hang on. How many men have walked on the moon? Is it A, 10? I should go 1. Okay. 1, 10, 2, 5. This is really confusing. 3, 12, or 4, 9?
The ding. It's,
Yes.
I believe it's 12.
I'm gonna go 9.
It's
Oh.
12.
Damn.
Very well done.
I-
And final question, question number 7.
Already
You might
lost.
make a comeback here, Al.
Who
It's
has
1 to 3. It's anyone's game, really.
Okay, this last question is like 10 points.
Yes.
what?
Yes, I agree.
Oh.
Double or nothing.
No.
Double or nothing. It's not double or nothing.
Even if you did get double, that's still 2.
No, if I get double, it'd be 3, so it's 3 all. So we both win.
Oh.
Double or nothing, Nick. Double or nothing.
This is not fair.
Double or nothing.
I've got a solid lead. And
Don't
he's bringing
care.
in new.
Double or nothing.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Love
No,
you
but
get
because
it
if he
wrong
wins,
anyway.
it means that we have to do another pop quiz next week.
Yes.
Okay, but there's no guessing before finishing.
Yeah, you have to
Okay.
let us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so question number 7. Who has won the most Academy Awards? A. James Cameron. B. Walt Disney. C. Katharine Hepburn. Or D. Steven Spielberg.
Buzz.
Oh, well, there you go.
Ooh.
Spielberg.
Do you have an answer?
I was gonna say probably Cameron actually.
Oh.
Oh, what? No way.
If it's Katharine Hepburn, I'm gonna chuck a fit.
No,
It's
it's
Walt Disney.
Walt Disney.
I should have honestly guessed that.
Why would one award? But
Does it
he
belong
didn't. He
to
didn't.
him?
He didn't produce and write all the movies. He was just like, oh, I'm gonna give money to these animators and writers. Why does he get the award?
He did.
Well, he did
very
it for, like,
early-
Steamboat Willie and stuff, which is like the first one.
Steamboat Willie. That sounds made up.
He,
No,
But
it
it's
isn't. It's,
real.
it's the first thing Mickey Mouse was in.
yeah,
Oh, it sounds
Mary
silly.
Poppins. I'm fairly sure he wrote that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? It wasn't Winnie the Pooh. It was Donald Duck or whatever. I don't remember the name of it. It was when. Okay, just move on.
It doesn't matter. I lost, so Stuart wins 1-3.
Oh, there's no rematch. That sucks. We have to find new
Right, no,
contestants
good
now.
game.
Good game, Stu. Very well done.
You're both
Yay.
fired. Bye bye.
Oh, wait, we got it.
Ask me anything about sharks in World War II. Oh, that's what happens when you watch the Discovery Channel.
Oh, Shark
true.
Week.
Shark Week.
Yes.
No, what
The
about
Megalodon.
what about Bush Week?
They reckon there's one alive.
Got to have Bush Week.
What is
question.
this bush?
Oh, that's just un-Australian, mate.
That's
Why does it
teachers
sound
say.
like a week that you don't shave?
Deadly 16.
Oh my- okay.
Alex.
I mean,
Anyway,
I meant your face.
we got the Veronicas coming up with
oh, I love the Veronicas.
yeah, me too.
What song is it?
Is
Is it All the Things She Said?
No, it's On Your Side.
That's a good one.
It's with the.
All the Things She Said was named Veronica's.
Oh, well done.
Oh,
Play the song.
Written by
yeah,
Tattoo.
we'll play the song. So this is On Your Side by the Veronicas. Listen, mornings live and local in Brisbane, Youth Radio on 11:07 AM and Digital Radio and online phoenixradio.com.au. That was Nothing Hold Me Back by Shawn Mendes. Now, our good friend Alex here on mornings. He caught up with. Actually, I'm not going to say. You can listen to this interview and you can figure out who he caught up with. Yeah, okay, don't look at me like that, Alex. You didn't prepare an intro for me, so here's an interview from Alex.
Here on our morning show, you may have noticed that we love learning about science and space. It's through this learning that we've found out that USQ is at the forefront of astronomy and supports some of the best forthcoming minds. One of these minds is Jake Clark, a PhD student at the University of Southern Queensland, who is using our very own Minerva Australis telescope to assist in NASA's test mission. Jake Clark, how are you today?
I'm really well, man. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So first of all, how did you get involved with astrophysics and sort of what made you fall in love with space?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think it all started for me back when I was about 3-4 years old and had this sort of real intense fascination with space and in particular planets and planets within our own solar system. And I remember my dad arranging a night with one of his workmates at the time who had a really nice telescope, and we went out to his backyard and I saw Jupiter for the first time and lost my melon over it. It was incredible. And I think in high school I appreciated astronomy a little bit there, and I was more interested about engineering and becoming an astronaut, and I actually discovered that I'm probably too tall to be a pilot and not too tall to be a astronaut, but that's all fine. And it was, I think, the ultimate moment for me was the last day of choosing what subjects I wanted to do, also the course I wanted to do in uni. Sitting down and thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of my life, as most Year 12s do? And I was thinking, all right, well, I love physics, I enjoy math. I remember as a kid, I loved astronomy. Let's look up space physics or astronomy and space physics or something like that. Because I didn't realize that astrophysics was even a field of research then up in Year 12. And sure enough, saw a course for space science and astrophysics at Adelaide and got into it and loved it, and here I am today in Toowoomba doing my PhD.
So you mentioned seeing Jupiter for the first time. So what's something that still, after everything you've learned, what's something that still blows your mind today?
The best little base nugget I have is that Einstein discovered the laws of special relativity, and in particular discovered that there is a cosmic speed limit, and that is the speed of light. And so light travels almost 300 million meters a second. But there are a huge range of consequences for that. And in terms of, say, time travel, you can't travel faster than the speed of light, because what happens to someone like it, or anything that has matter, as you reach up to the speed of light, your mass actually becomes infinite. Your length starts to contract, and time stops in your reference frame. So what I find interesting, and the little space nugget that I want to present, is that for a photon, or a light particle that's traveled from a faraway galaxy, let's say 10 billion light years away. So it's been traveling from that galaxy to us for well over 10 billion years. And in the reference frame of that photon, that has happened instantaneously, those 10 million years, which just blows my mind every time I think about that. For the little light particle, that took literally no time at all.
I didn't know that. That's incredible. Because I know that in 2022 or something that we're going to be able to see two stars collide or something.
I did read about. I saw an article headline for that.
Yeah, and like that's happened more than 1,000 years ago or something.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess because light has this cosmic speed limit attached to it, the consequences are that it travels at a finite speed, and when we see something, say, 100 light years away from us, we're actually seeing it as it was 100, because it's taken 100 years for that light to get from that object to here. So if you see something that was, say, 5,000 years ago, 5,000 light years away, you're actually seeing it as it once was when the giant pyramids were being built.
Crazy,
absolutely incredible.
So when you were traveling around Australia presenting STEM shows and workshops to younger audiences, how did you find their engagement was?
There's just sort of pessimism with the younger generation, and people are, I've lost all hope in humanity. But presenting science shows to high schoolers and primary school students across Australia, from the Gippsland regions in southern Victoria into remote Indigenous communities in remote Northern Territory, the kids love science and tech, engineering, math. But I think what's not wrong, but things that could be done differently, is kids want to be engaged already with the things that they're engaged in. So what I mean by that is that when I was traveling to Laramba, which is a remote Indigenous community in Northern Territory, there's talk that kids are struggling to attend class and school and learn at school, but this one teacher flipped the whole curriculum around Australian rules footy. And so Aussie rules up there is a religion. Kids would come up and ask you, what's your name, and who's your team? Two questions they'll ask you. And so the teacher flipped the whole curriculum around. And so art would be designed around designing a new mascot for their team, or designing a new Guernsey. Maths would be to look at how many goals did your favorite player score this week, and then map that over. English, listening and comprehension would be writing down words that were missing in, say, your favorite team song.
Yeah.
And kids engage with that, and they love that. And I think if you showed that science isn't just something that we do in a lab, or maths isn't something that we do on just a board, and that there's real life application to it. And when you're baking a cake at home, there's some chemistry, there's some physics there as well that you can explore, and just to have more tangibility and just to show kids that science and tech is literally all around you, and we can actually use these examples to teach you and engage with things that kids already engage with, you think about the math and physics and all sorts involved with, say, Pokemon or Fortnite. Why not do a STEM class around Fortnite, and the kids would absolutely froth over. Just going back to our shows, that's what we tried to do, is try to relate, well, what are kids engaged with right now? What are kids engaged with generally, and then try and wrap the shows around that. Students really engage well with those shows.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean, like, make it relatable to them. Another thing I wanted to ask is, I'm going to just guess that you were too young, and I'm definitely too young to see that sort of space race to the moon. And, like, that in a lot of children's hearts back in the day would have sort of inspired them to look up and want to learn more about astrophysics. Do you think that, one, we've had a lack of a space race, and two, do you think that we're about to see one?
Well, looking at the history of the space race in the 1950s and the 1960s, I think there were different motivators and different motivations that spurred that on as to a sort of a new age space race that would happen right now. The space race that happened in the 50s and 60s occurred due to the Cold War, actually, and it was a sort of space arms race and see who had the bigger rocket, and a huge one-up, which is quite fascinating. You see all these conspiracy nuts that think that the whole moon landing was fake, with this whole space race and the Russians hating on America. And you think, well, if it was faked and the Russian agents had a whiff of that would have been exposed many years ago. But I think, we're going to have a space agency here in Australia, and that's going to start, well, it's already been announced. The head has already been announced, Professor Nick Clark. And so that's an exciting time within Australia, right? That we can have the next generation of students in high school, in primary school right now thinking, well, I don't need to work for NASA anymore. I don't need to be inspired by working for NASA. What I am inspired about is actually working for the Australian Space Agency, which is quite rad. Another sort of space race that's happening right now is getting resources off Earth. So there's a huge push for asteroid mining, and that could push another space race as well, depending upon what sort of resources people want to acquire out there. And there's talks about having a moon base on the moon. There's talk, you got Elon Musk. So I can see that there is a new generation space race starting to occur, but I think the motivators behind it are more exploratory than they were of just someone needs to dominate space. And we had the announcement a couple of days ago in America about the Space Force. But I think that it'd be interesting to see the developments there. But yeah, I don't even know what to say. And the defense budget there and huge, and you compare that to say NASA's tiny little budget, and people say, oh, well, what's NASA doing for the community? And why are we spending all this money on space and telescopes when we should be considering world hunger? So a great answer to that was back in, I think, the 60s, 70s, when NASA was starting to develop satellites, and a nun actually wrote to the head of NASA at the time and more or less said that, why are we spending all this money on satellites when we should be feeding the hungry? And his retort was excellent, and it was essentially, well, we're actually building a satellite to monitor crop in space, and we can look at it at real time, and we can do all this sort of fascinating stuff that we just can't do off the ground to make crops, produce more yield from our crops, to make sure that nothing bad is happening to them. And I'm probably badly articulating what was written in that letter, but I think that's a great way to look at it. And just think about, for every dollar the U.S. government puts into NASA, I think NASA puts back $7 to $10 in a dollar back into the economy, because everything's public. So they put everything in the public domain, and then companies then turn around and go, hey, this tech is fantastic. We could actually use this tech for something else, and they then commercialize that tech, and then that's how NASA then contributes to the majority of the economy through that way.
I've read an article about, I think here in Australia, how science is being cut in funding because they can't see a return, an immediate return in science here in Australia. But the problem was, and someone pointed it out, that science isn't they're not developing the technology to get returns. It's not like somebody said we're going to make a mobile phone with GPS before the GPS was invented. The only reason why mobile phones have GPS is because it was invented prior to the mobile phone being invented.
Yeah, and because of the commercial risks involved. So if the government can absorb some of those costs and then pass that on to a company where they don't have to spend millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in R&D, then that's fantastic. And I mean, we're talking about blue sky research going into commercial research. The perfect example of that, and especially in Australia, is the Wi-Fi. The story of Wi-Fi occurred when astronomers working for CSIRO were trying to determine the distances of faraway galaxies. And so what would happen when the light gets from that galaxy to the telescope, it will be received at different times, and that's because there's dust and clouds in space as well that perturb the path of the light. And so it'd be received at the telescope at different times, and you couldn't accurately work out how far away these galaxies were. And in parallel to that, in the mathematics department there at CSIRO, they're trying to work out, well, if we have a wireless signal in a room such as I'm in right now, and there's a desk, there's a cabinet, there's computers, there's walls, and this signal is all bouncing off all of these surfaces and then coming back to the receiver. It's all going to be received at different times. We're not going to get a coherent signal. And then it turns out that the astronomers solved the problem first, palmed off the solution to the mathematicians. They go, holy moly, thank you very much. They then patent the Wi-Fi, and I mean, where would we be without cat videos on YouTube right now? We'd be lost, man.
We'd be lost, yeah. All right, so quickly, we're going to wrap it up because we're running a lot over time here.
Sorry, dude.
No, it's completely fine. It's amazing. Just quickly explain your research. And so from my understanding, what you're trying to do is find planets outside of our solar system, but also determine what they're made out of.
Yeah, that's right. So as a part of USQ's brand new observatory, Minerva Australis, which is based at Mount Kent, 25 kilometres southwest of Toowoomba, I'm finding planets outside of our own solar system and then trying to work out what they're made out of. And so the two techniques you generally use to just find planets, you can work out its radius by the planet passing the surface of that star from our perspective. So you see a little dip in the starlight. And then you see the star wobbling as that planet orbits around that star. And that tells you how heavy that planet is. And so if you have the mass and you have the radius of the planet, you can then work out the density. Okay. And research suggests that the metals inside of those stars are really important to determine what the composition of those planets are. So you can really break down that density and work out, all right, well, how big is the core of that planet? Or if it has an ocean layer, how big would that be? And then try to infer, well, could aliens or alien life exist on these worlds? And that's a very exciting aspect of research that's happening here at USQ and around the world. And I'm really thrilled and excited that I'm doing this as a part of my day job.
That's amazing. How big is Australia's role in assisting the NASA TESS telescope, which is, I believe it's why the observatory
was built in the first. Australia's role is solely down to USQ. I mean, ANU and Siding Springs, they're going to be running a couple of observations through the 4-meter telescope down there, but you have to compete for telescope time. And so you're competing against people that want to study the galaxies, that want to study cosmology and all that with that same telescope. But the best part about building Minerva Australis is that it's purely dedicated to the TESS mission. So we can use our telescopes every night for the next, 3, 4, 5, however years we want to, just looking and following up planet targets. And it's the only observatory in the southern hemisphere dedicated to following up targets. So you don't need to fight for telescope time, and you'll see a plethora of planets passing through news websites in the next, say, 6 to 12 months that have the USQ and, in particular, Minerva Australis flag family planted on.
That is amazing.
Yeah, take that, the sense. Little old USQ are doing huge things, and it just goes to show that great research can happen no matter where you are in Australia.
Very much so. Well, thank you so much for calling in today. It was fantastic to talk to you.
No, and thank you so much for having me.
And that was Perfect by Ed Sheeran. You listen mornings live and local on Brisbane Youth Radio on 1197 AM and digital radio and live phoenixradio.com.au. And it's the end of the show now.
Oh man, I don't like this.
It's time to say
Okay,
goodbye.
thank God you're continuing on from that. I thought that was it.
No, that's it.
No,
We
no,
just
that's
stop.
it.
That's it.
Bye.
That's it. Play the cue.
See you guys.
That just
bye-bye.
reminded the way you said that just reminded me, especially with the slow music, reminded me of Bear in the Big Blue House, where he says goodbye to the moon.
Bye.
Have you seen our production
Goodbye.
notes?
Have you seen our notes?
Take a look. So right at the end of the show.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh,
That is
it's
really cool.
for people
So when
listening
he
at home.
talks to the moon, goodbye. You know, that's
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
He's on his balcony.
Because like on a second episode, we sang that obviously off air because of copyright concerns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to play it on air. I'm going to see if we're
If we
allowed
can
to play
do
it
it.
on air because
Oh, it's brilliant.
iconic.
It's
Dun,
beautiful.
dun, dun, dun. That's
No,
not the
no,
song.
no.
I know that's the
Goodbye,
theme
Bear.
song. I just love the show.
Goodbye, moon.
Goodbye, moon.
Goodbye, Bear.
Oh, brilliant.
But yeah, we'll be back next week. I don't know if Stuart will be here.
I'll try my hardest. I mean, I'd love to come every week if I could. It's not like I don't have the time. I just need to.
I will.
Thanks, Mel.
No one asked you.
No.
Because we know you'll be here and we love having you here.
Yeah, thanks
I love
guys.
you.
Thanks for having me on the show.
okay.
And another big happy birthday to Stu.
Yay.
Big
Yeah.
happy
It's
birthday,
been-
big
it's been a
20-year-old boy.
Yes,
Mm,
been
and
a
a
good
thank you-
birthday show.
And a thank you to the producers, especially Gabby and Joel.
Hooray.
I love these sound effects.
Yeah, they're so good.
But yeah, we're back next week. Right now we've got some Dua Lipa with like it's covering my thing. I don't know what the song's called.
Be the one.
Be the One by Dua Lipa.
Yeah,
Here on
yeah.
Phoenix
Really?
Radio. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.